Whether you're doing no spend January or you're just appalled by food prices and just generally need to save some money on food, I have the best pantry friendly recipes for you. My name is Maria. I consider myself an expert pantry cook, which means that I go to my cabinets every week and I make sure that I cook at least 3 meals from what I already have. Today I'm sharing 20 of my best pantry favorites. These are meals that can get you through the entire year cooking with what you already have and save you a ton of money while eating really well. And next up, we're making a really simple vegetable fried rice. We do have some egg in there for some protein and some really easy microwave wontons. Now, I get that some of these are maybe things that I have shown before, but this budget meal plan is so perfect, at least for my family. It's so delicious. It's things that we love. So that's why I really wanted to share it with you. You want to start by dicing half an onion. So you want half of one of your onions and 2 cloves of garlic. You can totally do more if you want because we have plenty of garlic and it's delicious. If you didn't go to the store and you don't have onion and garlic, you can always use onion powder and garlic powder. Then I'm cracking 2 eggs and just kind of scrambling those up. We're going to start off by cooking our eggs in a wok or a pan. I have a wok, and if I use it quite a bit. I find that I use it for a lot of stir fries and stuff. So I do love the wok that I have. That is also linked on the vlog, but like I said, a stir fry or a regular pan will do just fine as well. I use sesame oil, but you can use any sort of high fry point oil to cook your eggs. And you're just going to cook them up like regular scrambled eggs. Just keep stirring. In the meantime, I'm getting my vegetables cooked. I literally just followed the instructions on the back of the package and put those in the microwave to cook them up. Then you just want to remove those eggs and set them aside on a plate or a bowl. Add more oil, and we want to cook over high heat here. And you're just going to cook up that onion for a couple of minutes until it's kind of softer, stirring kind of constantly because it's a stir fry. Then you add in the garlic just for maybe 30 seconds until it's fragrant. And then we can add in those mixed vegetables. And again, we're just going to kind of stir this constantly. And I forgot to mention, off to the side there, you see my white rice cooking. You're going to need a couple of cups of cooked white rice. So I just cooked mine in a pot today, according to the package instructions on the back of the white rice. And this is a great pantry meal because you can basically do whatever you want with it. So you can add any type of veggies that you have. You can even use fresh veggies if that's what you have in your fridge. And then you can also add in proteins. So I've done shrimp before. I've done chicken. You can use beef. You can add pork, anything you have. So I just added up probably 3 to 4 cups of rice. You can really add as much as you like, and then stir fry that right around with all of those veggies and onions. At this point, you want to add the egg back to the stir fry and kind of mix it well until it's well incorporated. And then add a 1/4 cup to a 1/3 cup of soy sauce. I ended up just using what was left of one of my bottles of soy sauce and then a little bit more. So it's probably about a 1/3 cup, but you can add to your taste or liking. If you love it doused in soy sauce, have it like that. If you only like a little bit, do that. If you don't want any at all, that's fine too. And then I love to add about a 1/2 teaspoon of oyster sauce. So not too much, but I do find that it gives some flavor. So if that's something that you have in your house, go ahead and use it. I am assuming that soy sauce is something that is definitely a pantry item. I can get it at my local Dollar Tree or at Walmart. Both of them are going to be less than $1.50. So it's really inexpensive and a very flavorful condiment to keep on hand. And then while that's finishing frying, microwave your dumplings according to package instructions. It's super easy and really worth it. I was so shocked at how delicious these dumplings were and how beautiful they were. I think they were around $3, so really crazy to be able to snag those and have those. Such a treat. Sometimes I like to leave the rice for a little bit and let it get a little bit crispy. It is so delicious that way. The kids were huge fans, and overall, this is something that I make quite a bit, and we just love in our family.
5.
Really?
Yeah.
And now it's time to make a truly incredible chicken noodle soup. This is so hearty and so fall. You want to start with 2 ribs of celery, but you could really add as much as you like, especially since we already bought the celery. And then you want to dice up 4 large carrots. You really want to think about the size of the carrots that you want in this dish. Same thing with celery. So if the end of the carrot is really large, you may want to cut it in half because it's going to be like a bite-sized piece, right? You really don't necessarily need a super large round of carrot in your soup. Then you want to melt a tablespoon of butter in a stock pot over medium-high heat and add in those vegetables. Saute these for about 3 minutes. And then you need about 3 cups of diced chicken. You can use a rotisserie chicken. You can even use 3 to 4 cans of chicken drained, or you can just use leftovers. Into those vegetables, you want to add your seasonings: 1 teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of black pepper, 1/8 a teaspoon of dried rosemary, 1/8 a teaspoon of dried sage, and a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes if you'd like to add a little spice. Now, when I made this soup, I didn't have fresh onions, so I just used a teaspoon of onion powder, but you could use fresh when you put in those fresh vegetables. And then you want to add 10 cups of either chicken broth or chicken bouillon, whatever you have on hand. You need to bring that up to a boil. And then because I had it, I added a cube of chicken bouillon. If you don't have it, that's totally fine. They're super inexpensive, about $1 for like 8, or even cheap for a huge thing of it, and it gives so much flavor. And you just want to bring this up to a boil and then reduce your heat to low and cook for about 30 minutes. And then you can add in your chicken, and we're just gonna let the hot soup kind of warm this chicken all the way through. And on the side, you wanna cook up your pasta. And because we're just using like regular pasta noodles, I really wanted to cook it on the side and then serve the soup over the pasta so that it didn't, I feel like pasta really takes on liquid and kind of gets huge and mushy and not good. So I like to serve the pasta separate and then pour the soup over, and that way you can kind of make sure that that pasta stays fresh and that your soup, you have as much pasta as you like in your soup. This soup is so flavorful, so delicious. It makes a ton, at least 2 days worth for us. And it's just so soul warming, really, with all these meals. I mean, that's the thing about fall meals, but I love that we're doing this for so little money and still filling our bodies with such good food. For this one, we're making chicken pot pie casserole. This is an amazing way to kind of stretch chicken and vegetables and really make it into a couple larger meals. You want to start with 2 tablespoons of butter in the bottom of your pan, melt that up. Then you're wanna add 1 medium onion chopped and cook that onion, stirring frequently for about 5 minutes. You want to cook it down. Then we're going to add in that 12-ounce package of frozen mixed vegetables, and you don't even need to defrost those, just pop them right in there. And then you want to add in about 2 cups of diced chicken, and again, this can be canned chicken, this can be from a rotisserie, this can be leftover, whatever you have, just add it in there and make it work. Then you want 1 3/4 a cup of that chicken broth, about a half a teaspoon of dried thyme, and a teaspoon of seasoned salt. And then we're going to make up a slurry with 3/4 a cup of milk and 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. This is kind of like a cream of chicken alternative. You want to heat the chicken and vegetables until boiling and then stir in that cornstarch slurry. And then you're going to heat that again till just boiling and then pour that right into a 9x13 casserole dish. This should be a nice thick mixture, reminiscent of what you would see inside of a chicken pot pie. And then you want to make the topping with just 1 egg, a half a cup of milk, and 3/4 a cup of Bisquick and 2 tablespoons of melted butter. So you just want to mix all of that together, and it's going to make almost like a thin biscuit type topping. And then you want to just put that kind of in dollops over the top because it's kind of thin, so it's almost like cake mix. You want to pour that right on top of the casserole. And then we're going to bake this for about 30 minutes until that topping comes out clean. So like if you put a toothpick in it, you would want to make sure that it's cooked all the way through. It's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but it is so fabulously delicious. And this is 2 full meals for my family, so it's lots and lots of food.
I gave it a 5 out of 5. I rated a 5 out of 10.
Wait, that's only a 50%. You don't think it's better?
I give it a 10 out of 10.
Next recipe is for what is called camping dinner chicken quesadilla because, hey, it's easy to take canned chicken breast camping with you. So if you are going camping, this is a great idea. But it's also a great idea if you're just hanging around your house and you don't know what to make and you have a can of chicken. So to make this, you just want 1 larger can of chicken and about a half an onion diced up and about 2 cups of shredded either cheddar or I think I actually use Colby Jack cheese. I love Colby Jack cheese in a quesadilla. That's just a personal opinion. And then I apologize, this is just a weird jar of salsa, so it's got a strange top going on here. But you want to add 1 jar of your favorite salsa. We love the Chi-Chi's mild just because the kids really like it, and it's a simple flavor that's not super spicy. And that blanket down there, that's my son's comfort item. It is a king size, like fluffy blanket, and he calls it cozy, and it's like everywhere in our house, and it drags stuff around with it. I don't know if anyone's had that experience, but I'm like, can you get it out of the kitchen? But hey, look, it has a guest appearance on YouTube now, so I'm sure Tommy will be super proud. And yeah, just mix all of that together. I've never really done a quesadilla like this where you mix everything together, but I love this idea because then you get everything in every bite and you don't have like layers of stuff. It's super, super simple. So I'm just putting a little bit of butter in the bottom of my pan. That's how I like to make a quesadilla. You can use your favorite tortilla, whatever size you want to use, whatever type you want to use. And then go ahead and add just, a quarter to a third of the mixture, depending on how much you want to put in there and how many quesadillas you want to make. And this is super delicious. You want to cook this on a medium low heat. I like to cook it low and slow kind of thing because I don't like to burn it, and you want to give it plenty of time so that your cheese can melt, and then flip it once it gets crispy on one side and do the same thing with the other side. These were so delicious and such a great recipe to make in a bind. You can really elevate what may have been on a different day just a plain cheese quesadilla and turn it into a full-on chicken quesadilla, restaurant quality, delicious meal. This one is an easy homemade chicken lo mein. So you want to get started with 2 to 3 cloves of minced garlic, or instead you could use a teaspoon of garlic powder. And then you want like 1 pound to 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. You could also use breasts in this situation, or again, cut the meat off of a bone-in, skin-on thigh. And you just want to kind of dice it into bite-sized pieces. And then in a wok or a large pan, if you don't have a wok, over medium-high heat, you want to heat about 2 tablespoons of either sesame oil or a like high heat oil, maybe like a canola or a vegetable. And then you just want to add that chicken to the oil once it's hot and cook, stirring frequently until it's fully cooked through. That could be like 5 to 8 minutes. And then while that's cooking, we're just going to cook up a quick sauce with 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 teaspoons of sugar, a teaspoon of sesame oil, a teaspoon of ground ginger, and then you could add in a teaspoon of sriracha. That's completely optional if you want something spicy. You want to make sure that's well mixed. And at the same time, you want to have a pot of boiling water because we're going to be boiling up 1/2 pound of linguine noodles. You could actually use linguine, spaghetti, or traditional lo mein noodles, but I like using linguine because they're just cheaper and they work out great in this. And then in that same wok, once that chicken is done, you can just remove that to a plate. And then we're going to add in 1 bag of the Walmart Deluxe stir-fry vegetables, the frozen ones. You could grab them from any grocery store and any mixture that you like. Some have like more mushrooms and peppers. Some are more of a stir-fry. And we're just going to cook those until they're kind of done. It'll take like 2 to 3 minutes. It doesn't take a long time over that high heat. And then we're just going to add that chicken back to the pan with the garlic and kind of let that garlic get fragrant, and then add in the cooked noodles as well as the sauce. And you just want to toss all of that together. This ends up tasting phenomenal. It's like way healthier than what you would get at the restaurant, and really, really delicious. And it's actually like so crazy inexpensive and super easy to make. Another amazing like takeout budget hack is to grab some frozen wontons, pot stickers, or even like those mini egg rolls. They have great ones, even at Dollar Tree. In this case, I had some mini wontons from Walmart. It's always great to just keep a bag of these in the freezer because even if I'm making up a quick fried rice, which is something I can make up with any sort of leftover beef or chicken, or even just veggies and eggs, I can add these wontons in and it feels like something really special. So I just follow the instructions on the back of the package. They're super simple to make, and they make a meal or they make something simple turn into something amazing. This is what our meal looked like this particular night. I like to serve ours with a little bit of extra soy sauce if you want, some sriracha if you want something spicy. And I actually love this chili crunch. The kids love those things. Yeah, this chili crunch is really, really delicious to add over to actually any of the meals you're going to see in this video. And that's also in my Amazon store if you're interested in grabbing it. Now I'm going to be making air fryer tuna melts. So I just got home. We were away last night. Went and saw a concert, Billy Strings, if you've heard of him. Super fun, like bluegrass. I didn't have any meat defrosted. I kind of didn't think about it ahead of time. So I figured let's go in the cabinet, grab some tuna, and we're gonna do tuna melts. These are super inexpensive. And I've done like a ultimate tuna melt before, and those are delicious, but this is gonna be much more basic. I was able to grab this Mighty Stone Milled. Okay, clearance, 99 cents. This is not cheap stuff. So yeah. I was super happy that I already had this in my fridge. So when there's 5 people in your family, you'll find that one meal can be almost a whole loaf of bread, which is why I'm grateful that was 99 cents. So I'm just using 2 cans of tuna, and we're going very simple on this. I'm probably gonna do about a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise and a few big squirts of Dijon mustard. It's not gonna be a complete science, but you make it the way that you like it. We can add salt and pepper to taste as well. You can always add diced onions to this or some celery. I'm just going basic. I even have tomatoes, I have to wash it, but from my garden. I didn't do a full garden this year because I have a toddler and the idea of like doing a full garden and trying to go out there with him is daunting. But I did just do a couple of big tomato plants just on my like patio area. And we've been getting some tomatoes, so that's very exciting. So this is optional. Obviously, if you have fresh tomatoes, you can use them. And then I'm just gonna go through and butter the bread. You could spray the bread too, like if you had like a butter spray or something like that. Just want like a good layer. Now, if you don't have an air fryer, that's gonna be totally fine. We're actually gonna end up placing these kind of butter side down because we need to add the tuna to it, which is okay, which is A-okay. Yeah, so if you don't have an air fryer, you can just pan fry these. I've done that many, many times before. You can also bake them in the oven, that's an option. Or you could even use your outdoor grill to make them. So I'm gonna put some tomatoes on these. I know Dan is not gonna want tomato. I'm gonna put it in the boys because I think that they should have tomato. It's good for them. I have sliced cheddar cheese, but you can use shredded cheese if that's what you have, or Monterey Jack, Colby Jack, even like Swiss. And then we're just gonna put the tops on these. And I am gonna butter both sides. I was just waiting. So we're gonna air fry these at 350 degrees for about 6 minutes, and then we're gonna give them a flip and do a couple more minutes. So it continues to shock me how incredibly crispy the air fryer can make things. So when I was cutting these, they just kind of like snapped in half, and it was, I mean, the butter with the flavor on this is really incredible. Like I said, they're super cheap and super simple and just an easy, quick meal for, you know, when you don't have anything planned, go ahead and make a tuna melt, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. We just serve these with some cut up veggies with ranch dressing and hummus. Just remember, sides do not have to be complicated.
5 out of 5. Hey, why can't you do that?
These next two recipes are going to be starting with just a simple box of mac and cheese. This is mac and cheese with tuna and peas. So as expected, each of these recipes is going to start off with one box of macaroni and cheese. And for some reason, I ended up with the thick and creamy kind from Walmart, but it does not matter what type you have as long as you have the orange cheese one. You don't want like the white cheddar shells. I don't think that would, I mean, I think it would still be delicious. It would just be a little different. So I can't vouch for the taste on that and the design of the recipes. They are really designed to be working with your orange mac and cheese. So you just want to follow the directions on the back of the box when you're making your macaroni and cheese. And for this recipe, it's going to be as simple as adding a can of tuna and a little bit of peas to it. Now you could go a step further and maybe even add some spinach. If you have some like frozen or fresh spinach, just make sure you wilt that down. You could put that in there. You could add a can of chicken even. I think chicken with some peas would be delicious in this as well. The great thing is this is something that you can make off of all shelf-stable pantry items. So it's not something you need to have on hand. And even like the milk, you can have shelf-stable milk and you'll be ready to go. And I have many a time, if I don't have butter or margarine to put in my mac and cheese, just substitute it either for a little bit of oil or just put extra milk in, or if I don't have milk, just put extra butter in, and the macaroni and cheese takes it very well. It is a very versatile meal option. So once you add that tuna in there, you want to make sure you drain that can, or if you have like a tuna in oil, I haven't tried that, but it could be delicious and it probably would add a little extra calories if you are looking for inexpensive calorie boosting items. Then I added about a half a cup of peas. I had just cooked these according to the package. They were frozen peas. You could also use canned peas if you have them on hand, and mix that well together. This was so shockingly delicious, and it's almost like, I remember a while back, my friends were into what they called, I think it was like tuna surprise or tuna noodle casserole, but I think it was called tuna surprise. And it's basically like mayonnaise, tuna, pasta, and any other veggies you can cut up in there. And it's really, really good. It's actually a great lunch. So this is kind of like a warm macaroni and cheese tuna surprise. And I was shocked and surprised and excited that my son Julian, who is obsessed with macaroni and cheese for lunch, liked this tuna with the addition of the peas. And I'm very, very happy about that, because now he's going to not only have his macaroni and cheese, which I was always a little bit nervous about, you know, the nutritional content. He's also going to have some protein and some vegetables.
Good.
Delicious, huh?
Yeah.
You gonna have that every day now?
100.
The next recipe is another one full of pantry staples. Again, you don't have to buy anything that is going to be perishable. You can just throw this together off of things you usually already have in your pantry. You want 1 cup of salsa, and I used like a medium salsa, and I'll tell you that the bite in that was actually perfect with this. But again, if you want to like feed it to younger children, you may want to go with mild. Then 1 can of canned corn, and I realized that wasn't going to fit in my pot, so we had to mix this in a larger container. Make sure to drain your canned corn, and then also drain and rinse a can of black beans. And you want to mix all of that together, and this makes just a fabulous little Mexican dish or flavor or taste. You could even add in like a little bit of garlic powder or onion powder if you want to, but I didn't do that, and I thought the flavor was great. I think that salsa really gives you all of the flavor that you need in this. And then you can serve this either with some sour cream and scallions. That's what I opted to do. You could put some fresh shredded cheddar over the top of it, or some maybe queso fresco. Really make it your own. I think a little cilantro would be good over this too, or just plain as it is just fine as well. There are so many choices and options for this, and this is just like this surprise like Mexican style casserole that you can do so easily, so quickly, and so inexpensive. Next up, I'm going to make a chicken salad croissant sandwich, and we're going to switch a few things in and out, and it's going to be a little different than the original, and I'm going to work with what I have. So that's how we do things around here. You're going to want 1 cup of red grapes, and we're going to cut those in half. To that, you want to add 2 cups of shredded chicken. Now I'm using a rotisserie chicken. You can cook up some chicken in your Instant Pot. I'll make sure to put a recipe for that down below. Just super simple. You can do it in the crock pot, or you could use canned chicken. So if canned chicken is what you have, and that's the most affordable thing these days, go ahead and use a couple of cans of chicken, and that will treat you very well when it comes to a chicken salad. And you also want 1 rib of celery. Now I do have a fresh celery, but hey, if you buy like a big pack of celery and you think, well, I don't need just one rib for this salad, you can actually slice that celery up, put it in the freezer, and reuse it later. It defrosts really well. I also cut up 1 scallion. Alternatively, you can use diced yellow or red onion, or a teaspoon of onion powder. And then add in 1/3 cup of Parmesan cheese, and the recipe calls for buttermilk, but I'm actually going to do a couple squeezes of lemon instead of doing the buttermilk. For spices, you want traditional 1920 spices such as 1 teaspoon of dried parsley flakes, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of dill weed, 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then you want to mix it all together with about 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. This is give or take. I feel like mayonnaise in a salad like this is always how you like it. I'm a mayonnaise person, so I always put a little bit extra, but you can go a little bit lighter too. And because we didn't put that 1/3 cup of buttermilk in, it may be a little bit drier. That's kind of how I like mine, so I just kind of compensated by adding the lemon and the extra mayo. But you can instead alternatively do 1/3 cup of buttermilk, or the squeeze of lemon juice, and then 1/3 cup of milk, because that's actually a good substitute for buttermilk, because the buttermilk is actually just kind of like a more acidic milk. So if you do like a teaspoon of lemon juice and some milk, you're going to basically make the same flavor as buttermilk. Now, I had never added Parmesan cheese to my chicken salad before, and I am a true believer now. I will add Parmesan cheese every time. It's absolutely delicious. It gives it a fantastic flavor. The original recipe calls for croissants for this, but There were no croissants at my store, and I had these delicious whole wheat rolls, and I figured, you know what? That's what we have. That's what we're going to eat them on, and it's still going to be good, right? But this is a great chicken salad recipe. It is so delicious. It was so good that we actually ended up reusing it and making a whole nother batch of it for when I went camping for lunches that day. And this particular day at home, I just served it on a whole wheat bun with some chips, and it was fantastic. Like, it's my new go-to recipe. That Parmesan cheese is everything. I mean, grapes in it, get that crunch from the celery. It's absolutely fabulous. And yes, this is here. I just mixed it up while we were camping. I brought it with me, no mayo, and then I added the mayo right before I made the sandwiches, and that worked out perfect. So that's a little tip for you. If you want to make a chicken salad, keep it cold in the cooler, but then add the mayo last minute so it doesn't get, soggy or whatnot. Hey, I should have gone to the store today, but I didn't. So it's slim pickings in the pantry, but I'm going to make the best of it. And I actually see some things that I can make a meal out of here. So I've got some fire roasted diced tomatoes. I've got some chicken breast. I have diced green chilies. What do you think I'm making? Comment below what you think I'm making. And then I have diced tomatoes with roasted garlic. Fabulous. Let's do that. Once I have that idea, my idea is a creamy chicken tortilla soup. So I have black beans from the freezer. I'm just going to defrost these real quick in the microwave. I have some corn tortillas. I'm going to crisp these up in some oil and make little tortilla strips to go with it. I've got cheese to put on top. I've got some lime to give flavoring. Vegetable broth needs to be used anyway. And a package of cream cheese because we're going to make this a creamy chicken tortilla soup. And I think it's going to be quite fabulous. Oh, and I have an onion too, so I might as well use it. But if you don't have fresh onion, we could always use onion powder. And we'll put some like taco seasonings in there too and call it a day. So you do want to start by dicing your onion and then putting a soup pan over medium-high heat with a couple tablespoons of olive oil. And then we're going to put that diced onion right in the pan and cook it until it's soft. That takes somewhere between 2 and 4 minutes. I feel like it just depends on the onion or the day. And we're going to add our seasonings. If you have fresh garlic, go for it. But I just use 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin, and 1 teaspoon of chili powder. And then a half a teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Just going to give that a good mix until all of those seasonings have kind of coated those onions. And then you just want to drain that can of chicken and then kind of break it up in the bottom of the pan and mix it into the spice mix. Then we're going to add in that small can of diced green chilies, can of diced tomatoes with roasted garlic, as well as the fire roasted diced tomatoes. And if you don't have those exact kind, any type of diced tomatoes is going to do in this. It's still going to taste delicious. And then I had about a can of black beans when I microwaved everything. So you can use some cooked black beans from dried, or you can use canned. That's going to work just fine. And then about 4 cups of either vegetable broth, or you can use chicken broth, or you can use chicken bouillon, vegetable bouillon. It's kind of all interchangeable depending on what you have. You just want to stir that all together and bring it up to a boil. And then we're going to reduce the heat and turn it down to a simmer. And at this point, we're going to make our tortilla strips. So you just want to take 6 corn tortillas and cut them into strips. And then in kind of like a larger or a frying pan, you want to heat a 1/4 cup of oil and heat that until, like, if you threw some water in it, it kind of like sizzles. Then we're going to add in those tortilla strips and cook those until they're crispy. You want to just flip them kind of halfway through. And then just remove them and put them on a plate with a paper towel. And that will kind of help absorb the oil. And you're going to probably have to do like a few batches of these. And then once that soup is ready, and this is kind of while that tortillas was cooking, you want to add 4 ounces of cubed cream cheese and then just mix that until everything's well incorporated. So that's just going to kind of melt right into the soup. It's going to make it super creamy, super delicious. This soup is full of flavor, and it's actually super hearty, like with beans and tomatoes and chicken. And you just would never, ever know that that was canned chicken in here. This really tastes like something you get at a restaurant. And especially put those like fancy, crispy tortilla strips on top. You can serve it with whatever you like. You can do some shredded cheese like we did. You can do some cilantro. I even think it would be good if you had some like fresh avocado to put over the top. It's seriously such a pantry friendly winner. This next one gets as easy as it gets. And we're just talking about pasta and sauce. So that is the age-old, remember that you have it in the pantry. Remember that you can serve this for dinner. I even sometimes do like hot dog buns or hamburger buns, just with a little bit of butter, garlic powder, salt, pepper, and Italian seasoning in the oven. That is like poor man's garlic bread. It is so delicious, and it makes up a whole meal. If you have any veggies, put it on the side, make a little salad, and you have dinner. Okay, for this next meal, we have another easy peasy dinner. We're just cooking spaghetti according to the package. Now, your choice on whether you want to make the whole thing up or not depends on how much your family eats or if you want to have leftovers. But you actually don't need the entire pound for the 5 of us. That's quite a bit of pasta. It was a lot of food. All right, so the elevating factor on this meal is actually going to be our garlic bread. I scoured the internet and TikTok, as usual, to find something fun and new and inventive, and there was an idea for garlic bread pinwheels. So I'm just making up a quick garlic butter using about a half a stick of butter, but you could use margarine, you could use oil, whatever you have. And my butter is softened. That's important. About a teaspoon of garlic powder and about a quarter teaspoon of parsley flakes. Now, you could use fresh garlic, you use fresh parsley. That's all a choice as well. Whatever you like to use to make your garlic butter, make it up, do it. Now, to make these pinwheels, this is actually recommended for like spread that's stale or maybe crusty or was left out. Mine is actually pretty fresh, but this is also a great thing for when you do have that stale or crusty bread. We're going to cut like a square out of the inside, almost like we're going to make a eggs in a hole or eggs in a basket, or, you know, we have a million names for that thing. And leave the outside available, but we're going to cut to the corner so that it kind of makes a strip. Basically, we're going to make a crust strip, if you will. And then you will need some toothpicks, or I have like longer skewers, and you want to roll that bread up almost like a circular lollipop or like a pinwheel, right? And kind of make it as circular as possible. I mean, mine didn't turn out perfectly, but I don't know. It was just fun to do something different. And they end up looking like these little pinwheel lollipop things. And like I said, yeah, just something different. And don't worry, we will use the inside of that bread too. This is also a great thing. Like if you want to use the inside of that bread to make like a meatball or something like that, you could totally use that. I just ended up adding the garlic butter to mine and making just like teeny little garlic bread toasts as well. And then you just want to top those pinwheels with a generous amount of that garlic butter. And then these would be absolutely lovely as they are, but you could totally add cheese to them. So if you have Parmesan cheese or shredded Parmesan or mozzarella or something like that on hand, you can sprinkle that over the top and that would be delicious. Because I had that leftover cheddar cheese, I decided to use that because I didn't use all of it for my tacos. So I put some on top of there. And if I had bacon bits, I think that bacon would be so amazing on this. Maybe even a sprinkling of ranch seasoning. I may go crazy and learn more about pinwheels as time goes on because they were so wonderful and so fun to make. I just broiled those pinwheels for about 3 minutes just till my butter melted and my cheese got bubbly. And during that time, I just finished up my pasta. So I poured in the Alfredo sauce, poured in my cooked broccoli. I just cooked that in the microwave according to the package instructions. Shocker. And that's it. That's dinner. And you get vegetables, and you get pasta, and you get garlic bread. I mean, pretty good stuff. Noodles good, bud? Okay, it's breakfast for dinner time, and I couldn't come up with anything groundbreaking, but just remember to use all of your ingredients. And when you buy for 5 meals at a time, you can save money because you can roll things over. So buying ahead of time is a big money saver. Making a meal plan will save you tons of money. We're able to use these eggs, this bread, and just this sausage to have a delicious meal. One of my kids' favorites. They're like, breakfast for dinner, it's time. They're so excited. I'm just scrambling my eggs. You can cook them however you like. If you have some milk and some maple syrup, you could even make French toast and make it even more of a fun option. Their options are really endless. I just opt to microwave my sausage links because that's how I like to do it. You can cook them in a pan, do whatever you want, and then let everybody have their bread however they want. My kids are like, they don't like theirs toasted. I don't toast it. You know, we don't have to do it a certain way. Everything is great. This next one I call a kitchen sink ramen because you can really use any sort of veggies that you have on hand. In this particular instance, I had some red peppers, some mushrooms. Actually, I'm not sure I use the mushrooms because they end up going bad, and some broccoli, but use what you have. We're going to start with the sauce. I'm going to a tablespoon of rice vinegar, a tablespoon of sesame oil, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of hoisin, 1 teaspoon of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of minced garlic, and a teaspoon of minced ginger. I just keep my ginger in the freezer, and that way I have fresh ginger ready to go. Like the root stays really fresh, and when you shave it in here, you can see that it comes off really good and really easy. So it's kind of cool method to keep it, and that way you always have fresh ginger. But if you don't have fresh any of these ingredients, you can always utilize your spice cabinet. So I'm probably not even going to use all of this broccoli, but we'll use a bunch of it. This is definitely a veggie heavy meal. I'm gonna cut this up pretty good. I want the pieces to be pretty bite-sized in this, so it's not just overwhelmingly broccoli. So we'll have to see how these peppers are doing on the inside. Sometimes red peppers last forever. Heyo, still good, love it. All right, I don't wanna go too crazy with it. We'll save this. I'll have to do like a veggie and dip or something. And then I already have shredded carrots, so we're just gonna put those in. And this is the poor little last of the scallions, but we're gonna use those too. Maybe I should try and regrow them, but I just wanna use them. We'll do our best. I just put a couple tablespoons of sesame oil. You can use olive oil, whatever oil you have. Over to the side here, I have a pot of water boiling for the ramen noodles. We're gonna get started on this stir fry because it's gonna take a little bit, but I have this wok over high heat. Just gonna add my peppers, broccoli, my carrots, mushrooms. And I'm gonna grate in some more ginger, and about a tablespoon of minced garlic. So happy that my 2-year-old did not steal my tongs this time. Look at that, beautiful. You can easily do this with some frozen veggies too. So, I mean, I'm lucky that I had all these leftover vegetables in my fridge because it seems like, wow, how could you have such a vegetable forward pantry meal? But you could buy one of those like oriental mixes at the grocery store and keep that in your freezer. And you could very easily add that into this and just make the sauce. It would be very, very good. I'm tossing this regularly because it's over high heat. So we're actually like stir frying it. That's what stir fry means. It means that it's over high heat and you're stirring it while you're frying it. You want to crack 3 eggs in and put them kind of off to the side and just scramble them up. It's okay if some of the veggies get in there too. And then over here, we're just gonna put this ramen in. I'm not putting the packet in. We're just gonna cook this ramen for literally like 2 to 3 minutes. I don't want it to cook up too much because we're gonna add it into the stir fry and it can really easily get overcooked. And I know some people get upset over ramen noodles. You could very easily do this with either some rice noodles, even just some regular spaghetti noodles, or you can buy your own ramen. I've had organic ramen noodles before that I got at Whole Foods. So whatever you have on hand, you can totally make this work. Or you can do all of this and just put rice. Also very delicious. And it's pretty much like a fried rice. The really nice thing is you see how this like broccoli turned nice and green. This got really nice and steamed up while we were cooking those eggs. Now everything's gonna mix together really well. It's surprising how fast everything comes together and cooks. I hadn't added those scallions yet, so I'm gonna add them in now, let them cook up a little bit. If I had more, I would do them more at the beginning, and then I would add some over the top at the end. I do have some sesame seeds though, so I'll probably top ours with sesame seeds. And then this is gonna be really good if you put like some chili crunch or sriracha on it, more soy sauce, whatever your favorite thing is to put on your ramen, go for it. So in very fancy style, I'm just gonna move my noodles right on over and then pour my sauce right on top of that. Kind of wish I made more. Oh yeah, this is beautiful. So this is gonna be a do as I say, not as I do situation. I am going to go make one more batch of that sauce. So in the recipe, there's gonna be 2 batches of this sauce because it needs more, or not 2 batches, but double what I said in the beginning. So we live, we learn, and that's why we test things. That's why I test things for you, so that you don't have to worry about it. You know that it's perfect. I'm gonna add more sauce and then we're gonna enjoy. I almost forgot I have these dumplings. So we're gonna cook these up because the kids love them and they're gonna go really well with the stir fry. So I'm gonna plate up the stir fry while I cook them. I'm just gonna cook them in the microwave.
If it was without the mushrooms, I'd give it a 5 out of 5, but it has mushrooms, so 4 out of 5. I would give it a 3 out of 4.
This next one is some really easy homemade burritos. Again, we're doing like Chipotle at home. We might as well make them with what we have. I made this during a pantry challenge, so I had taken some ground beef out of the freezer. I had some cheese that I grated up. I had tortillas, and I made up a box of some like Spanish rice. You can use plain white rice with this. You can use even just like refried beans, black beans. I mean, you can make these into whatever you want based off of what you have on hand. So it's super easy to make a really delicious burrito. I just cooked up my ground beef with some taco seasoning, and I ended up having like a lot more than I would need for burritos for my family of 5. And I actually just ended up taking the rest of it and making it into some burrito bowls for the next few days. But also in the past, I have been able to actually just take the meat and put it in a container and freeze it. And that way I already have taco meat for either like a casserole or some more tacos in the future. And then for the rice, I just followed the instructions on the back of the package, nothing fancy. And I happen to have some fire roasted diced tomatoes that I used in it. You could always like switch out. So even if the package says use regular diced tomatoes, you can pretty much switch out to any type of diced tomatoes that you do have on hand so that you can just use what's in your pantry. To make the burritos, I do find that the actual burrito size tortillas are best. If you use the smaller ones, it's just kind of really hard to roll up and they end up being really tiny. In that case, it's actually better to make almost like a flauta, or like a taquito. So you just roll it up really small. And then you start with some shredded cheese, put on your ground beef or whatever meat or bean you're using, and top that with the rice. You can also put sour cream or guacamole or salsa right inside of the burrito like they would at Chipotle. And then just place it on a medium-high heat pan with a little bit of oil and get it crispy on both sides so it kind of melts that cheese. And I like it better when it's nice and crispy. And this is a huge hit. I did get a little bit of flack for not putting the sour cream and salsa inside like Chipotle does, but I'm sure I will next time, and you can if that's the way that you like it. But overall, the kids did enjoy the food. That's just Tommy saying it was too hot to try yet. And those are my extra burrito bowls that we ended up having for lunch the next day. So you can kind of make a lot with a little. For this one, we're making chicken Caesar wraps. This is one of my kids' favorites. It's a great way to get them to eat greens, and for some reason, they just love Caesar salad wraps. And I've got my helper here, Julian. He's 7, and he loves helping out in the kitchen, so he wanted to help out making these tonight. The great thing about them is you can buy romaine lettuce and wash it, which is what we're doing, kind of breaking it up. But you can also just use whatever lettuce you have on your hand. So if you have some tortillas, some lettuce, some chicken, even canned chicken, you can make these. You can totally make them work. So you just want to break up your lettuce, and we're basically just making a Caesar salad here. Then I have a rotisserie chicken that I was cutting up, and I was even teaching him, how to slice properly with a smaller, more kid-friendly knife, and kind of hold his fingers in, and he's learning. So it's a cool process, and I definitely recommend that you try and get your kids in the kitchen when you can. We just put the chicken on top of the washed lettuce and follow that with some croutons. I also make my own croutons quite a bit. If I have some leftover kind of like stale bread, I love to just toss them in some oil, some garlic powder, salt and pepper, and then put them in the air fryer for like 5 minutes at 400 degrees, and it cooks them up perfect. So that's just an option to kind of reuse what you already have. And then some Parmesan cheese. I had the shredded, but you can even just use like the shaker cheese. That's absolutely fine. And some Caesar dressing. And I've even made a homemade Caesar dressing just with some mayonnaise before, and it works out really well. So you can very easily make up a Caesar salad kind of based on what you have in the house. And then you can eat it like that, or you can make wraps. So I just use tortillas and roll them up. And we served them with a little bit of chips because we already had our veggies and our protein, and big hit with the family, and it's a super easy one.
5 out of 5.
You made it. You better like it, right?
5 out of 5. 5 out of 5.
Now this one is kind of a classic, but I haven't made it in forever, and somehow it kind of fell off my radar, and I was super impressed with the recipe that I chose. I also love that chicken, broccoli, and rice has tons of budget swaps, so you can make it with more expensive items, or you can really cut things down to the bare bones and it'll still be delicious. For this one, we're going to get started by chopping up a small yellow onion, as with many recipes, and you can always swap out with onion powder on this one if that's all you have on hand, but I always say you got to buy onions because they are cheap and they add a lot of flavor to your meals. And forgive me, because yet again, my voice. It's that season, it's that time of year. Comment below if you're also struggling with sickness that just kind of won't leave the house, because I feel like everyone's having that trouble right now. Should I have just brought the entire cutting board over? Probably, but I just added the onion to the bottom of a pan over medium heat with a little bit of olive oil in there, and we're just going to saute that down for about 5 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm cutting up some broccoli. We want about 2.5 cups of fresh broccoli, and you could always use frozen for this too. I would just recommend kind of cooking it according to package instructions. You can microwave it or cook it on the stove, and then just kind of add it in at the last minute. It will probably save you a few bucks to do it that way. It just depends on what you have and what's on sale that week, because a lot of times fresh broccoli will be 99 cents a pound, and you really don't need more than a pound in order to do this recipe. For the chicken in this recipe, or you can use really any protein that you like, but chicken is really good in it, I only used 10 ounces of chicken breast. So it's such a small amount we're a family of 5. I mean, the kids don't eat too much, but there was definitely a solid 4 to 5 servings of plenty of like healthy, hearty meal here. And you just used 10 ounces of chicken. So you're losing, way less than a pound. And you could also very easily swap out a can of chicken in this recipe, and I think it would be delicious as well. So this is a great meal, and why it becomes so inexpensive is because you just don't need to use a lot of things. You're going to use a lot of things to kind of fill it up, and you're still going to get your protein in, you're still going to get your vegetables in, but you just don't need a ton of them to make it feel hearty and make you full. I cut my chicken up into pretty small pieces just because I wanted them to be able to fill out kind of evenly throughout the rice mixture, and it worked out really well. Once my onions were cooked up, I added a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I added the chicken pieces to the bottom of the pan, as well as 2 cloves of grated garlic. I just grated them right in there with a microplane. You can mince them up. You can use like the canned minced garlic if you have that. Garlic paste would do, or garlic powder. So there's tons of options here to give that garlicky flavor. That garlic was fragrant. I moved the chicken over to one side of the pan, and then I put about another tablespoon of olive oil onto the other side. You can use whatever type of oil that you have. And then I added 1 cup of white rice, and you just want to saute that white rice on the side for about a minute until golden. To that mixture, you want to add 2.5 cups of chicken broth or vegetable broth, or you can use chicken bouillon. And if you don't have any of those, just adding a little extra salt and the 2.5 cups of water will do. It has worked out fine for me in the past many, many times. So you're not going to get as deep a flavor, but you're still going to have a delicious dinner. You want to bring the mixture up to a boil and then lower your heat to a simmer and put the cover on. You want to cook that for about 12 minutes covered. Then you're going to take the cover off, sprinkle the broccoli evenly over the chicken and rice mixture. And if you're using like a frozen broccoli, I would actually recommend that you keep the cover on and cook for another 8 minutes. What we're going to do is cover it back up and then cook it for 8 minutes with the broccoli in there. And that's going to cook the raw broccoli until the rice and the broccoli are tender. After that 8 minutes is up, go ahead and remove the cover, turn the heat off, and then I sprinkled on about a half a cup of cheddar cheese once I gave it a good mix. And then you want to top it off with about 1.5 cups of cheddar if you have it. I think if you have mozzarella on hand, that would be fine. Monterey Jack would be good. They're all going to give a different flavor, so just kind of depending on what type of cheese you have, you're going to get a kind of a different flavor in your rice and broccoli and chicken. But whatever you choose, it's still going to be delicious. Oh, the food bandit strikes again. Dan caught on camera stealing my cheese. Or is it like, who moved my cheese? Who stole my cheese? It was Dan. All right, regardless of the missing cheese, this dish was absolutely delicious. I know it's such a classic, but we're like, why did we not have this for so long? The kids devoured it. They absolutely loved it, and so did my husband. And overall, we're like, we need to make this more often. This is such an easy one. It's so inexpensive. You are going to love it.
This next recipe is for a poor man's burrito bowl, and this is for when you are craving Chipotle, but you just don't have the cash for that Chipotle price tag. You want to start by cooking up some rice according to your liking. You can just follow the instructions in the back of the bag. And then you're going to take 1 or 2 cans of black beans, depending on how much you want to make. And then a half a teaspoon each of garlic powder and cumin. And just heat those until your beans are fully cooked through. The rest of this is purely assembly. Add in a cup of rice to the bottom of a bowl, followed by a half a cup of your cooked black beans, 1/4 cup of salsa, whatever your favorite kind is, whatever the cheapest is. Also, if you don't have salsa, that's going to be totally fine. Just use a hot sauce. I've done this with hot sauce many times and it's still delicious. Whatever you have in your cabinet will do. Then I had some cheddar cheese and I'm just grating that over. So whatever your favorite type of cheese is or whatever type of cheese you have on hand, you just want a sprinkle of that. And you're going to top it off with something spicy if you like it, a little bit of jalapenos. These happen to be from Dollar Tree, so they're super inexpensive. You just top that off with that. That's a beautiful little garnish, and it is that simple. The flavor on those beans with the rice and your, whatever you're using for spicy stuff, your hot sauce or your salsa, on their own are absolutely delicious, and this makes this so inexpensive, so easy to eat, and you do feel like you're at a restaurant because you can order one of these at Chipotle for like $10. So let's make it much cheaper and make it at home. This last one is what I call a snack plate, and some other people might call it girl dinner. I guess that's like popular term for it, but this is on a kid's plate, so this is gonna be our snack plate. But basically I try and just take a little bit of everything, especially if I'm doing like a pantry challenge or something, and try and get your fruits, your veggies, your carbs, maybe a little dairy and some meat in there. Obviously, just depending on what I have, it changes at times. Like I've done hard-boiled eggs on there. I sometimes do pepperoni. You can even just do other pieces of like cut up meat. You can serve it with a smoothie. But you can actually serve this for dinner, right? You can serve this for lunch or dinner and just use scraps of whatever you have. Like this was like the leftover other half of a apple that I had, and I was like, let's just use it up, So definitely little scraps, different things that you can grab. You could grab like the last of a package of like some chips or something, and each plate can be different. And you can just have at it, and it doesn't have to be like something you cooked, but more just like they're like a mini charcuterie board, or just like a mini thing of whatever is left over. Sometimes I put like a bread roll on here. The options are kind of endless. Thank you so much for watching today. You can get all of these recipes in my free ebook, 20 Pantry Pleasers. It's down in the description box.